Not much ink is left. Prepare to replace the ink. There's a little light that comes on. It says I'm almost out of real low on Cyan. What those numbers really mean, this is on a IPF 750 or 755 or any of these 24 and 36 inch ones. It actually figures out what ink you would be using as long as the unit's printing properly and using a lot of ink to print the images what you're doing. Like here I measured the look at this percentage on here is 25%. It was 88 grams actually weighing the cartridge. And here it is today. It's almost about 15%, 79 grams. So it's dropped in Cyan, barely dropped in magenta because the magenta's kind of tends to get clogged up. And on the yellow is really clogged. It dropped only 2 grams. And so what it does, it assumes the head is printing. So it's going to subtract off what you think you have based on what's going on as far as what the image looks like. So in these colors through here, if yellow tends to get clogged up, it's going to go through and drop this even though it's not really onto the paper, squirting ink onto the paper, or the magenta. And what I've always found on these units, my always yellow tends to get clogged up first and then maybe the magenta. And I'm not sure if it's because the yellow is closer to these and so it tends to get contaminated when the head comes in here because you've got a pad of 3 here and a pad of 3 here on the head. But I've always found this gets contaminated with black ink, and here it is next to the black ink cartridges. And so what will happen is when you get down too low on my unit, the software seems to be, it's also going to stop one time and not let you print, even though it's got tons of ink in it. And so if you fix the clog, you're going to have lots of cartridges that are still full of ink, so you either have to try to disable the chip on it, or on the software in here, it'll still let you use a cartridge. And here's some that I pulled out in the past, and the machine basically got down to where it wouldn't let me print. And this one had 45 grams. A totally empty one is 38 grams. So here's one that's 47. Here's one that's 108 on a yellow. And so if you put a new cartridge in, it's going to go up to 100%. But it'll get to a certain amount, it's gone ahead and decided that the cartridge is empty. So if you take a cartridge here, the full ones I've weighed for Canon are roughly 176 grams. The empty ones are about 38. Now just take those numbers with a grain of salt. If you subtract the 2, you get 130 grams. Then if you, 138, excuse me. Then if you take the capacity here of 130 mils, just assume it was water, that would be 130 grams. So I'm in the ballpark here. The difference is add the tare weight of the empty cartridge to the weight of water would be 168 is close enough to 176. So the 138 versus 130 is probably because it weighs a little bit more than water. Maybe 5% or something like that. So in these units, when you tend to get a clogged head, it's going to go through and still go through and drop your ink level. And if you get it unclogged, you're going to have to put a new cartridge in to go ahead and get it to work, unless you disable the chip on the cartridge or you go through on the menu, I believe, and do that. I believe there's some way to do that.